as with everything else related to the ICE situation here, we hear everything from the media. In terms of body cam, it's only as good as the people monitoring it and the people holding officers accountable. We have been told, and this is through the media, that the officers who shot Alex Preddy were actually wearing body cameras, but we have no idea because the federal government hasn't shared that. So one of my questions would be, okay, you're requiring federal agents to wear body camera. Are you going to share that with local law enforcement and our office?
County Attorney, I want to double down on this with you here right off the bat. There have been 2 of your own residents who have been shot and killed in just the last month alone. And when you're talking about the investigations that are being done by your office there at a local level into federal agents, how quickly are you seeking to move? And is there an expedited process effectively in an attempt to send a message to federal agents that just because Donald Trump and the federal government may not investigate you, that there are local authorities that will, and potentially there will be repercussions for your actions?
So I've told people that I believe we will have enough evidence to make decisions in both the Good and Preddy cases. We don't know what those are yet. But one of the reasons for the organization that you're talking about, and I know Larry will talk about more, is that local prosecutors, when we prosecute cases, we don't have to deal with a lot of the federal issues that may be involved here. For instance, I often get asked, why don't you just subpoena records, training records, all the kinds of things, physical evidence that you want? You can't do that with the federal government. You have to make a request under a United States Supreme Court case called TUI. And today we took a substantial step forward by filing what are called TUI letters on the Department of Homeland Security, demanding evidence in the case. And so that's a step we have to take to get evidence that we would normally get handed to us by our local law enforcement or the FBI or the federal government if they were actually working with us in any kind of criminal case.
Larry, let's talk about this effort, because there are, we noted 9 prosecutors participating. We'll put them up on the screen for folks. Pima County, Arizona attorney, Dallas County in Texas, Arlington County in Virginia, Fairfax County in Virginia, Norfolk County in Virginia, Travis County, that's a Texas district, Portsmouth, Virginia, Hennepin County, that's where Mary's from, and yourself, Philadelphia district attorney. This is, I think, hugely monumentally important, and I'm not surprised you're leading it. You've made a name for yourself as being one of the most progressive and effective prosecutors in the country. How has your background as a civil rights attorney informed the work that you all are now taking up with this effort?
Well, you know, I believe in justice. I think most Americans do, and we're up against an administration that has no qualms about doing things that are deeply immoral, illegal, and unconstitutional. The organization itself is growing. More and more prosecutors are joining, including from very large jurisdictions, because we understand the challenge. Part of our oath is to uphold the Constitution, the laws, and also to seek justice. We cannot do that and acquiesce to what this administration is trying to do. For anybody who would like to know more, you know, we would love to have you join this fight one way or the other. We have a website, federaloverreach.org. I would encourage you to go to federaloverreach.org and engage.
Can I just have one follow-up question on this? Because, and as we were discussing it earlier on our call, some folks are like, oh, it's going to be very hard to hold people accountable. It's very hard to be able to hold the feds accountable. There have been some instances in the past of this happening. There was a case in Virginia, actually, where Park Police were literally going through litigation. A local AG, the AG was suing because they murdered an unarmed 25-year-old. Well, when the AG switched, that case was dropped. But it did show that it was possible. How are you all going to go about really getting some accountability here?
Well, we're going to fight and we're going to win. You know, just one of our members is Steve Descano, who actually pursued successfully essentially that case. There is no such thing as what J.D. Vance is claiming. He claims there's this absolute immunity. He claims that ICE can operate basically as a death squad. They can do whatever they want, and there will be no consequence. That is absolutely wrong. He knows it's wrong. There is a sliver called qualified immunity that will affect, some minor cases. But it's really not going to have an impact, in my opinion, on the kind of cases that my colleague, Mary Moriarty, and my friend is facing. When you are killing unarmed people, you are doing so in ways that obviously go way beyond what you had to do and are objectively unreasonable, you're going to get convicted. And you're going to do every day in jail because Donald Trump cannot pardon you.
County Attorney, I want to... Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we've all heard this, that there's absolute immunity. And I think that's one of the problems here, that these ICE agents are getting the message that they can do absolutely anything they want without consequences. And that is not true. I have made it clear to our community that we have every right to investigate and to bring charges if we think it's appropriate. The federal government or the defendant may try to remove it to federal court, but these cases are very fact specific. And the idea, as Larry said, was, were they acting within the scope of their duties? And what they did objectively reasonable? So just because there are a handful of cases out there, it really is fact specific, and so we're working really hard to collect as many facts as we can, because we know if we charge that those will be defenses. One really important thing too is that if it gets removed to federal court, our office will still be prosecuting it. It won't be the federal government, and state law applies, not federal law. And so that's what Larry was saying about it would be a state conviction, and there would be no ability by a president to pardon.
Larry, I think the image of children being taken into custody has really gripped a portion of America that perhaps was not paying as close attention to this administration's deportation machine. And as much as there has been emphasis and attention on one or two children, we are learning that this is part of a broader pattern. I want to show you this headline from the Washington Post. A judge ordered the 5-year-old release, but data shows ICE is detaining more kids. The U.S. government does not provide direct information about children in immigration custody, but federal data on family detention and independent analyses of child detentions suggest immigration authorities are increasingly ensnaring the youngest and most vulnerable lives in President Donald Trump's effort to deport massive numbers of undocumented immigrants. Listen, a lot of these kids are U.S. citizens, and they are suffering trauma at the hands of their own government. What does justice, what does accountability look like for them and for their families?
Well, obviously, the most important thing is to return them to their families. But let me just say this to anybody in the federal government. Be careful what you wish for. I can list 10 different state court crimes that look like taking a kid away from their family without legal authority, transporting them somewhere else, and not letting the family know where they are. And it is increasingly clear that this is being done without authority. Let me just say, as the DA in Philly, you try that stuff in Philly, you're going to find out. We will come after you, and I do want to say this. There are plenty of good federal officials. We work with federal law enforcement in Philadelphia all the time, as long as they obey the law and the Constitution. But you want to commit crimes in cities in America, you better get ready to do time in cities in America.